In this Museum Without Borders episode, we partner with the National Gallery of Singapore to look at the works of Manish Nai and Tang Da Vu. At the heart of our discussion today lies the artist's dedication to materiality, process-oriented art practice, and the idea of collaborating or controlling natural material. Manish Nai was born in Gujarat in 1980 and brought up in Bombay, where he moved when he was 5 years old. His father used to trade in wholesale packing material and also in textiles, while his mother took care of the household. His exposure to textile and paper material, especially jute, as a child, had a formative impact on his work.
Artist Tang Da Vu is a seminal figure in contemporary art in Singapore. He is credited for influencing a generation of artists, particularly through the Artist Village, an artist-run space he set up in his own home, a rental farm in the outer suburb of Sembawang after his return from the UK in 1988. For Tang, the process of art making is as important as the final outcome, and he particularly enjoys the different forms of improvisation and collaboration that might happen through the art-making process. In his performances, which are the most well-known aspect of his practice, this emerges from his interactions with the audience. However, this attention to process and collaboration is also present in other forms, and like Nai, has manifested as an investigation into various materials.
In his early works, Nai developed a laborious process of pasting thick jute on canvas, over which he pasted gateway paper. He then applied watercolor washes over the paper, further layering it with fine-grained jute. Nai would also pull out individual threads from jute cloth to create distinctive patterns. Over time, the use of watercolor slowly receded, giving way to colored jute. The method of layering jute, paper, and watercolor paint on the canvas and then unraveling parts of the jute threads to reveal the patterns of the woven material visualizes the process of making and unmaking of the fibrous material itself. Jute in India is a utilitarian material made of natural fiber, mostly woven into sacking and matting.
Tang's material was not jute, but nature itself. In 1979, he made a significant body of work which he describes as a collaboration between artists and environment. The sun, the rain, and the soil became the paints of Tang's new palette. These works were made during Tang's first visit back to Singapore since he had moved to the UK in 1970. When he came back, he realized that land everywhere in Singapore was being cleared and new buildings were being constructed. Observing the resulting soil erosion in a field near his house, Tang placed 7 pieces of cloth in a ravine that had formed due to rain. Over time, rain caused muddy water to stain the bottoms of the cloth, and he used black ink to trace the depth of the gully. These 7 pieces of cloth were left in the gully for 3 months. The resulting gully curtains bear the marks of time and weather.
Nai's practice is both process and material intensive. He comments that while the act of drawing was spontaneous, the process of translating the initial concept into a work using jute is very precise. In a way, this is the opposite to Tang Da Vu's practice, as Nai is controlling the material with extreme force. The physical manipulation of material in the compressions of jute and old newspapers are a play between controlling the material and chance in the outcome. The act of transformation is another element that is made visible in Nai's practice. Nai began reusing the leftover jute thread that he had pulled out from his canvas, transforming them into sculptures. He would pack the discarded threads tightly into a box, add water to the cuboid form every few days, and would then add glue to hold it in place. Nai talks about this idea of turning a negative into a positive. In this case, something that was discarded now takes a new shape.
The idea of material transformation is echoed in Tang's Begin from Taiji from 1979. Tang strung up 64 pieces of white cloth in the hot sun, and every day he would take down 1 piece. This went on for 64 days. The sun turned the exposed white parts of the cloth yellow. The longer it was exposed, the greater the discoloration. Placed together after the process, one can observe a very subtle shift in the color of the work from white to yellow. Speaking about the process, Tang has said, "I wanted to try to understand it without preconceived ideas. I am not the master of my materials. I do not wish to control them. I am interested in making a relationship between me and my material, not in dominating completely." This meditative work and the relationship between absence and presence was influenced partly by Tang's interest in the I Ching, or the Book of Changes, an ancient Chinese text. At the bottom of each piece of cloth, Tang has printed the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching.
While Tang's work reflects a collaboration with nature, Nai's work and the material he uses, particularly jute, are partly informed by familial history and personal experiences. In an interview, Nai remembers how snippets of jute reminded him of hair that had fallen at a barber's shop in his native village. His surname Nai translates to barber, and his family belongs to the community of barbers. His grandfather also worked as a barber. His works also reflects an interaction with communities and neighborhoods in Bombay, where he engages with informal traders to procure materials. He often visits second-hand markets, where old and new goods are bartered, collecting used materials from there and then reprocessing them in his sculptures. Traces of the city are thus visualized through raw material and also through Nai's use of compression, perhaps mirroring the densely packed streets of Bombay, as the artist states himself.
Similar to Nai, Tang has also been interested in leftover or discarded materials. In 1971, while he was studying in Birmingham Polytechnic, the garbage collectors in the city went on a large strike, and so big black bags of rubbish piled up everywhere. Tang found in the rubbish a different sort of energy that was, I quote, "amazing," and it inspired him to work with rubbish for several years, which slowly extended to other non-traditional materials. He made Hair Book in 1975 using his own hair after a haircut. The 22 pages of the book present different arrangements of hair, both abstract and figurative. While he was clearly interested in formal ideas of space and form and composition, the use of hair reflects Tang's desire to question the status of the art object, a concern that remains central to his practice even today.
The material used by Nai always comes from everyday sources, is easily available and cheap, but intrinsic to Indian culture. His works also explore notions of time and temporality. The compression of cloth and jute perhaps speak to the condensation of space, time, and memory. Nai looks at time from a more philosophical lens. The relationship between time and space, the question if it can be reversed, compressed, and if time can be expressed in form. In a sense, time is also reflected in Tang's work, but in a different way, where he allows for natural forces to act upon the surfaces.